Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Welcome home, Chris Beard. Also, I want to give a special welcome to all of those wonderful Texas Tech fans. Welcome, Red Raider Nation. It is a pleasure to have you here. I can't wait to see what you guys have to say in the comments. It's been a wonderful day today, and I didn't think I would enjoy this news this much as we know Chris Beard has now been announced as the new head coach of the men's basketball team at the University of Texas, replacing Shaka Smart, who departed for Marquette. And we'll get into all of that as you guys saw my previous video on the basketball situation. Those of you who are regulars here at this channel, you know, I like Chris Beard, but I wasn't super high on him, and I had some other candidates that I was interested in. But a lot of that went out the window when I realized not just people in social media and people on message boards that are Texas Tech fans who really do love this man, and you can tell by the vitriol and the emotions and how they're just throwing all sorts of shade out here at Chris Beard, at Texas fans, all that type of stuff. Us here at Texas, those of us who are Longhorn fans, we have to develop thick skin and just get used to it because it is what it is. But I didn't think I would enjoy it this much. Even my personal people in my life who were Texas Tech fans who were texting me, Aunt Kathy out there in West Texas, who are just outraged by this and betrayed and throwing out words like he was supposed to be loyal. It is amazing to see that many of you guys who are Texas Tech fans today have been humbled at the fact that college sports, college athletics, it's a business. It's a business. Yes, Chris Beard was a. I'm crying because I'm laughing. So I've been laughing all day. But yes, Chris Beard is a former Texas graduate. You're going to hear that a million times over until the end of time. Yes, Austin is Austin and Lubbock is Lubbock. But at the end of the day, the brand of the University of Texas, and I'm not trying to sound arrogant. I know people are going to say you sound like stereotypical arrogant Texas fan. No, I'm dealing in reality here. And this video, my whole thoughts and things I share, I do try to be as objective as possible. So I'm trying to reason with you guys before I get into my analysis of the actual hire that Chris Del Conte has made. This is a business, and there's levels to this. And I know we are both brethren within the Big 12 conference, but there's a difference in the brand of the University of Texas and Texas Tech University. And when you're talking about, yeah, him being a former alum matters to him. Absolutely. It does matter to the University of Texas as well. But I'll put it to you this way. If he was a TCU alum, not a Texas alum, but if he was a TCU alum, I think Chris Beard stays in Lubbock at Texas Tech, especially with the amount of money you guys are paying. You did everything you possibly could to make him happy and keep him happy. But when you look at the opportunity, and yes, Texas, and I tweeted this the other day. By the way, make sure you're following us on Twitter. You see the icon below. Let's get to 10K. It's time. So hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Let's, promote ourselves here. But I tweeted this the other day. Texas is not a basketball school. And that's okay. Texas is a football school. Regardless of the success or lack of success we've had, that's the attention, that's the moneymaker, that's the breadwinner at the end of the day. Texas is a football school. Texas is not a basketball school, but Texas can be a basketball powerhouse. There's everything in play because there's a difference, in my opinion, between being a basketball school and that's your first born, first love, first everything, and being a powerhouse in a particular sport. There's no reason why Texas can't be a powerhouse in basketball, and that's part of the frustration many of us have had that are really real Texas basketball fans for many, many years. And when you see, shout out to the women's program, Big Schaefer, what he did year one. Shout out to Chris Del Conte, the hire he made year one. That's where that, they were kind of in the same boat with under Karen Aston too. So seeing the moves and developments that can be made, you want that type of energy for your program. Now, in regards to my reactions to the hire, right? Because we want to kind of go into this and break it down. And like I said, I want to be objective. Now, whether Texas called John Calipari or not, I hope they did. I hope they exhausted that option. I think it was pretty much known that Chris Beard, that was kind of the shoot for the moon one. On my video, I talked about Billy Donovan and a couple other people that would be shoot for the moon phone calls, and I think Billy Donovan was more realistic last year before he signed with the Chicago Bulls. But John Calipari, there's been whispers about his situation at Kentucky, and but the person that people wanted, we discussed this many times, was Chris Beard here at the University of Texas. Looking at what the success that he's had at Tech recently, and not just being a one-hit wonder at Tech, but building a real formidable basketball program. You're an overtime loss in the national championship game. Whether you're super high on Chris Beard, you're lukewarm, whatever, you have to be impressed by that. I am happy for our fan base, the fact that people are happy. I feel like we're collectively taking joy in soaking up all of the Tech fan tears. But in all seriousness, Texas getting their number one guy is big, because we've struggled with that as big as we are. And as much as I talked about business and levels to this, Texas has struggled to get their number one guy. And in this particular case, they went and got their number one guy in Chris Beard. Now, there's things that I have concerns with. I'll go into my concerns, but I want to address the positives, because again, when the fan base is happy like this, and I'm the type of person, I said this with Steve Sarkisian when he came on board and Chris Del Conte and the higher ups made that move. Once you're the coach of my program, I'm in. I'm not the type of fan that wants to be right more than I want to win. I want to win. I'm in. You will have my support. I will attend basketball games just like I attended under Shaka Smart, just like when I used to come to Austin, I attended under Rick Barnes. I'm in. I'm all in on Chris Beard at this point. But I want to outline my positives, and I want to outline some concerns that I have. And some of these things, again, I addressed in the previous video. Positives. He understands this program. As a former Texas grad, as well as an assistant under Tom Penders, the program hasn't changed from the standpoint of you're a football school in a big city and you're competing for people's attention. People talk about apathy in the program. Me being a diehard basketball fan, it has been frustrating. Comments made by Shaka Smart about attendance, whether that was a shot at Texas or he was speaking in the context of COVID, and the sellout comment with VCU. I'm not here to discuss that. But the point is, the culture here at Texas, we're it's been a little bit more front runner-ish. And, if the team's not doing well, a big sense of apathy sets in. And I've seen a lot of Texas Tech fans say, hey, in Lubbock, we're ride or die. Our gym, we pack out the gym. We have real home court advantage when you come up to West Texas and play in our gym. You're not going to get that in Austin. Well, Chris Beard understands what he's coming into, not just from the simple fact of his previous history with the school, but also as a rival coach coaching against Texas. So if anybody understands what type of environment you're dealing with, it's Chris Beard. Now, he also understands I'm now being hired. This is the first men's basketball hire by a new athletic director. I'm going to get a new basketball arena that is going to be, the Moody Center is going to be much more tailored to a more intimate basketball setting where we can possibly improve some of those things. But again, he's looking at the upside of the program. You can only go so far in Lubbock. I'm hearing Tech fans talking about, I retweeted one of them, my man Jonah Tolles, who's an NFL guy. You could have been a legend in Lubbock. A legend in Lubbock. No disrespect to Lubbock, Texas, but that's important to y'all and y'all alone. But again, there's levels to this. If you're able to raise Texas to be the basketball powerhouse, that sits different. I'm not saying Texas is a blue blood in regards to basketball, like a Kentucky, a Duke, a North Carolina, or UCLA, or a Kansas, anybody like that. I'm not saying that. But in terms of what the NBA prowess that we have, the size of our program, and the size of our brand, that's what Chris Beard is looking at. And he's coming here already making as much money as the head football coach and Steve Sarkisian. And if you're Steve Sarkisian, you're already saying, hey, I need to we're a football school. You need to make sure your head coach is taken care of, even though he hasn't coached a game yet. But that's neither here nor there. Another positive, staying in the conference. He's very familiar in the Big 12 conference. He's had a lot of success in the Big 12 conference. Chris Beard, Big 12 Coach of the Year, I believe 2018 and 2019, National Coach of the Year in 2019. So he's had all the success in the world here, Elite Eight run, Final Four run, won a regular season Big 12 title at Texas Tech. And as competitive as the landscape of this conference is, he gets that. He's familiar. He understands from a scouting perspective. There's no drop off there in some regards. Many will argue that there's an upgrade there, considering the success he's had in comparison to Shaka Smart. Although Shaka Smart had more success this past season in the conference than Chris Beard, but overall, look at the accolades. Look at the skins on the wall that he brings to the table. One of the things I just trying to get more familiar with my new head coach that I looked at was some of the pressers he did and the interviews he did leading up to their national championship appearance against Virginia. And I was really impressed with a comment he made about building your program and coaching in 1 year spurts. That was kind of unique to me because a lot of people talking about building up a program over time and trying to get your guys and all this type of stuff. And I feel like Chris Beard was really in tune and locked in with the aspect of the turnover in college basketball and the reality of that, whether it's 1 year players, whether it's grad transfers, guys being unhappy, transfer portal, all that. He's like, basically, I look at it coming from a small school that he came from and building his way up. I have turnover in essentially a new team every season. That's the way I approach it. So I have to make relationships very, very quickly. I think that is very, very relevant considering the situation here at Texas. We've had a lot of one and dones here. And right now with the uncertainty of our roster, a lot of people really rode for Shaka Smart, very similar to the guys that rode for Charlie Strong. And those relationships were super tight. And people are either going to be opting for other schools or options professionally. So that is something we have to pay a lot of attention to in terms of how he comes in right now, Chris Beard that is, and builds out this initial roster for the 2021-2022 season. With a coach with that particular mindset, hey, I'm going to go and talk to the guys that are still going to be around and some of the guys that may get an uptick, i.e. Brock Cunningham. I'll get to him in a second. But Andrew Jones, Courtney Ramey, guys like that to say, all right, try to get them to buy back in. Greg Brown, get to him in a second. But also hitting up the portal, which he's had a lot of success with at Texas Tech. You look at the players he had, led by Mac McClung last year and throughout, right? And not just getting transfers, but having immediate success with those guys. He's had success, much better success with freshmen than I believe we have. We've had a lot of struggles with some of our freshmen who have come in and just the inconsistencies. I think he's gotten a little bit more consistency out of his younger players because of that 1 year type of outlook and approach, but it hasn't hurt his player development. So I think those are some good positives. The biggest positive I see that Chris Beard brings, though, is his defensive wizardry and the intensity that he has. I mean, they had one of the best defenses we've ever seen, that 2018-2019 Texas Tech team. As a Texas fan, I've been annoyed with how, annoying and physical and all those type of things. This year, they had a smaller unit, but how, feisty his defenses are and how hard they play 50-50 balls. You can tell they coach intensity. They coach all of that. And so people like a Brock Cunningham are going to be very annoying for the rest of the Big 12 in college basketball, but what should theoretically thrive in this type of defensive environment. But I also want Texas fans to understand what type of coach Chris Beard is, and that's that grit and grind aspect. And it's been very, very successful for him at Texas Tech. Now, where that becomes even more of a positive is on the flip side, positive Steve says, if I now have access here at Texas to more athletic, talented players, not by a massive margin. I think Texas Tech's kids are underrated from that regard, but more physically, more talented players. I think he'll do a better job than Shaka Smart did at staying true to his roots. That was one of my biggest frustrations, probably my biggest overall frustration when it came to Shaka Smart is that identity, that lapse of identity from VCU with the intensity he had with his havoc system defensively, and their ability to press people and turn people over and create instant offense in up tempo and whatnot. That just seemed to went away, and I know Shaka was trying to acquiesce to getting higher level big men and a higher level talent and all that type of stuff. I don't see that happening with Chris Beard, where he loses his identity and his roots. I think he'll stay with that type of system, and it may cost him recruits here and there. But overall, in terms of building a basketball team and a basketball program that competes, I think that is an enormous positive. And I'm going to correct myself. The biggest positive is not the defense. The biggest positive is he wins in March. And that's why people wanted Shaka Smart gone. And I know technically Shaka Smart won the first Texas Big 12 championship in March. I know. When we talk about March, we talk about the NCAA tournament. Chris Beard is 9-3 in the NCAA tournament, Elite Eight run, Final Four run. Almost got to the Sweet 16 this year. Now I think that was disappointing for him, even though they went up against Arkansas and a coach that I really, really like, Eric Musselman. But 9-3 in the tournament speaks for itself. Shaka Smart in 6 years, no tournament wins. That can't be overstated. So when you're looking at forming a winning culture and somebody, I don't think Chris Beard's team is going to be intimidated by not wanting to turn the ball over against Abilene Christian. And I think that mental shift and overall mentality when you go out on the floor in the most highest pressure situation that is the NCAA tournament, I think that matters. Now, addressing the concerns, because I listed some, and this is why he wasn't my top choice, quote unquote, but he's my coach now, and we're going to work with it. But I still think Scott Drew and Bill Self are the two best coaches in the conference, and I think there's a little bit of a margin there. I know Chris Beard has won back-to-back Big 12 Coaches of the Year. That's dope. Scott Drew is going to be in position to compete for a national championship this weekend, right? They take out Houston. They're going to have an opportunity to, depending on the Gonzaga-UCLA game, I think we all know how that's going to go. No disrespect to UCLA, but the inevitable Gonzaga-Baylor matchup that we were robbed of earlier this year due to COVID, Scott Drew could, might be able to pull it off. I think Baylor is actually probably the best suited team to dethrone Gonzaga and stop them from their undefeated season. Now, where that comes into play, and you can make an argument Huggy Bear is probably in the mix, but I would say Chris Beard is the third best coach in the Big 12 right now. I really like what Mike Boynton's doing over at Oklahoma State, and I think they were smart to give him an extension. Huggy Bear, I love what he's been doing at West Virginia, but I think Chris Beard's the third best coach. But I'm trying to at least be on the level where we're 50-50 with Baylor and Kansas. Now, Kansas is a basketball school, so they're always, you look at their recruiting class, this was their worst year, and they were still a 3 seed under Bill Self, all things considered. And they're right back in the top 5 recruiting classes. Baylor's up there in the recruiting classes. Scott Drew is actually recruiting really, really well. And I don't think those programs are going anywhere. So understanding that we didn't really go outside and get anybody that rivaled those guys, so to speak. And I know some people are going to disagree with me on that and say, hey, the success that Texas Tech has had. But that kind of leads me to the next thing. He's only one game over 500 the last 2 seasons at Tech. And that was with better recruiting classes. A lot of people who are huge Chris Beard can do no wrong people are telling me that, or act like he was coaching, nobodies. And that was not the case. After that national championship run, yeah, Jared Culver was a 3-star who coached up. Yeah, Zaire Smith came on. He got Keenan Evans coached up and became a dynamic scorer, like all those guards. But when he got like Ramsey from Duncanville, who was a top 30 recruit, and his last 2 classes, 2019 class was 16th in the country, and his 2020 class was 11th in the country. Those are good, really, really good classes that Texas Tech was getting. So it speaks to a positive that he was able to recruit really well at Texas Tech. But I do think there's a concern that they had a drop off conference wise, and Texas Tech wasn't the same Texas Tech that was going to Elite Eight and Final Four when he got more talent. And not only that, but Ramsey leaves for the NBA early. The other brother, Namiri Burnett, transfers after only 12 games, who was his number 1 recruit in 2020. And, we'll see what happens with Micah Peavy in that situation, because I think his pops might be in play for us as an assistant coach. We'll see. But when he got more talent, they actually took a step back. And that is something that Shaka Smart had to deal with coming from VCU to Texas when he's getting the high 4 stars and the 5-star players and the guys who are looking at the NBA. It is a different animal to coach those guys than the guys who know they're going to be there for 4 years and are looking to develop. One of the things that Scott Drew has mastered, when you look at Baylor, look how many dudes at Baylor redshirted and are coachable. And I'm not saying Greg Brown's not coachable. I'm not saying Jared Allen wasn't coachable or anything like that, but they're coming to the school Mo Bamba. They're coming to be featured because that's what their talent predicates. And sometimes those two things don't necessarily mesh with, me asking you to go out there and play super hard defense and you might not get a shot for 10 minutes and things of that sort because it doesn't really, function together. So I need Chris Beard to address the concern of mine that with more talented players and these NBA type players, that they'll still be willing to buy in. That's what makes the people like Bill Self and John Calipari and Roy Williams, who stepped down and retired today after 33 years from North Carolina, like that's what makes them those multinational championship winning coaches and the people who are elite in the game, because they figure out how to win with that level of talent and getting those guys to really, really buy in. Chris Beard already having some of those problems at Texas Tech with a smaller number of those elite guys and Shaka having those problems over 6 years, that's something that has to be addressed, right? So next thing, and as I wrap up, the offense ain't going to be pretty, guys. The offense is not going to be pretty. He is a grit and grind defensive-minded coach. They won a lot of games at Texas Tech, 57-54, stuff like that. And for me, and the reason why I was so high on some of the other candidates was I wanted to shift in terms of just being a little bit more offensive-minded. Now, some people weren't realistic. I mean, Arkansas is also a great basketball program. And, we see what Nate Oates did at Alabama and some of these other programs who are ponying up more money to keep some of these guys and already have good cultures in place and like the regions that they're in. Totally get it. But a lot of the things that people complain about with Shaka Smart coach teams, lack of shooting, lack of spacing, people, too much isolation basketball, not creative enough plays out of timeouts, blah, 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 consistency game to game. These are some things that I think will be similar cases with Chris Beard, unless now we have already heard, as of recording this video, Chris Ogden, former head coach at UTA, also captain on the 2003 Final Four Texas team, is coming over. So maybe some of these if he's getting some big dog assistants, they can help pick up some of the slack on offense, because I know that was a big issue with Shaka. And Shaka's team offensively last year was better than Texas Tech outside of turnovers, which ended up doing us in. And that's probably another positive for Chris Beard. he ain't going to allow something like that just to plague his team all the way out. But Texas Tech was never an offensive juggernaut and modicum of offensive efficiency. So the shooting concerns and how they recruit that, he does put a lot on the plate of those guards to handle a lot of that stuff. So I want to see the offensive concerns be addressed. And then the current roster, because I've said before, Texas is the place where you kind of have to have success right off the bat or pretty early, like Vic Schaefer just showed us, Mike White with softball, and just the buy-in will come, and hopefully what we get from Steve Sarkisian here year one in football. And this roster being what it is going to be tough. Now, if anybody can figure it out with his prowess of having that one-year mindset, I think is Chris Beard. Now, you guys let me know in the comments. Yep, CDC did it again. Because this is a good hire. Regardless of him not being my number one, Texas got their number one, which means Chris Del Conte got his number one. And when you look at this program, you look at our school, it's a good hire because of the energy that it's brought up. So for me, it's just preference. A lot of things I listed offensively, some of the concerns I have are more preference things than anything else. But like I said, I'm all in on the coach now. Tell me in the comments what letter grade you guys give this. I know it's hard, and Sark said it best about probably don't want to grade things for another 2-3 years, but in the Twitterverse and social media and YouTube, that's not how we operate. We analyze things immediately. So I know we're going to have some Texas Tech fans in here that give this grade an F, but my Texas Longhorn fans and, objective college basketball fans, how do you feel about this hire? Tell me your thoughts. I know a lot of people are very, very excited. Let me know if there's any concerns you have and, anything you disagree with me on. Love to hear it, and I appreciate the feedback. But overall, let's define some expectations. I did not cover recruiting in this particular video. That is something I want to address in a separate video because I think there's a lot of opportunity, whether it's things that probably going to start popping off relatively quickly in the transfer portal, as well as the Texas Tech recruiting class and our class of guys who are currently committed but may opt out or national letter of intent, things of that sort. So I want to get into that. But tell me in the comments, and don't forget, 10K, we're on the way. Appreciate y'all. Texas Tech fans, thanks for tuning in. Y'all be okay. Y'all be okay. Y'all be okay. And Tech fans, everybody, remember,